Karoline Leavitt, his press secretary, the woman who keeps insisting Trump didn't draw this or sign this in 2003, she was 5 years old. She was too young even for Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. But she knows. She knows. They're all... I love that these people are so certain he didn't do this.
With all due respect to former President Obama, he has no idea what he's talking about. The decision to fire Jimmy Kimmel and to cancel his show came from executives at ABC. That has now been reported, and I can assure you it did not come from the White House, and there was no pressure given from the President of the United States. And how do I know that, Kaylee? Because I was with the President of the United States when this news broke in the United Kingdom.
Jimmy Kimmel looked into the camera, rolled a clip of the president gushing about his 28-year-old press secretary's lips, and asked the only question any normal workplace would ask: does the White House have HR? That was Jimmy Kimmel's entire thesis in one line. Funny because it's true, brutal because it's obvious. The bit didn't need fancy editing or a gotcha interview. It needed Trump's own words, a studio that collectively winced, and a desk anchor who knows exactly how to turn "this is not okay" into a laugh you can't shake off by morning.
To answer this, I didn't realize she'd be in the room, but she's on my list. Karoline Leavitt.
She's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move like she's a machine gun. Is she in the room?
She's in the room.
She's a star, and she's great. She's a great person, actually, but she's, I don't think anybody has ever had a better press secretary than Karoline. She's been amazing.
If you support Jimmy Kimmel, subscribe to the channel and write one quality that you like most about Jimmy Kimmel, because we are all Jimmy Kimmel. Let's rewind 30 seconds before the laugh. The setup was simple. The president, mid-gaggle on Air Force One, praising Karoline Leavitt in terms better suited to a Maxim cover shoot than a briefing room. He vowed he'd never replace her and marveled that her lips move like a machine gun. Kimmel didn't oversell it. He played the quote, paused long enough for the audience to feel the secondhand embarrassment, and then slid the knife with a deadpan.
Get it out like immediately. Is that right? How's Karoline doing? Is she doing good? Should Karoline be replaced?
No. That's up to you, sir.
It'll never happen.
Nobody wants to. I say she does a great job. Do you want to elaborate on the
and those lips, they move like a machine gun, right?
Do you want to elaborate on the
Does the White House have HR? The room broke because that's the one thing this White House never plans for: an adult in the building whose job is to say, "Sir, no." That's the moment you call exposed on live TV. Not because Kimmel uncovered a secret, but because he flattened the spin. In 2 beats, he made the power imbalance legible. A 70-something boss objectifying a 20-something subordinate on government time, on a government plane, as if dignity were a suggestion and boundary training were for interns.
Donald Trump actually said our new military will bring back new focus on fitness. I love the idea that Trump is lecturing these guys on fitness. I mean, if that isn't the fondue pot calling the kettle fat, I don't know what is. Listen up, generals. I want to make something very clear. The Pillsbury Dope president wants you to do Pilates. The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military.
You know, I don't really know how much he weighs. I can tell you one thing, that if you would ask me what should you do for fitness, I would just say run around yourself 3 times. You're going to be in great shape. You know?
Late night is lethal when it puts nonsense beside normal. Everyone watching can feel which side of the split screen they live on. Everyone recognizes the office guy who narrates women's bodies like it's a personality. Everyone knows why HR exists. Now, to understand why Karoline Leavitt was already TV hot before Kimmel touched the clip, you need one earlier broadcast moment, June 24th, 2024, live on CNN.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world. And that's...
Fantasy is more powerful than reality in this magosphere we live in, which meant it was time for our commander in cheeseburger to weigh in on one of the most pressing issues our military faces today: unattractive
Karoline, then a campaign spokeswoman, sat for an interview and chose to torch the network's moderators instead of answering questions. Casey Hunt cut her off mid-attack and ended the segment on air. The cutoff ricocheted through morning shows, panels, and a week of "Are we doing this?" debates. That clip is the origin story for why Leavitt became a steady character in the news ecosystem. She was a messenger who treated media hits as cage matches.
Karoline Leavitt, who's sick, she's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment. Thanks. Yeah.
And he's already figured out where to get the money. Trump today became the first president to sue the New York Times. He's suing the New York Times for $15 billion for defamation. $15 billion. Where does he even come up? These are like numbers my children make up when they're talking about money. I thought he said the New York Times was failing. He thinks they have $15 billion?
Fast forward to 2025, she's now the face of the briefing room, and the White House's most powerful man can't stop talking about her face. Kimmel didn't invent the storyline, he clarified it. She's not just a spinning machine, she's a 20-something being publicly objectified by the boss who hired her, and the country is supposed to pretend it's charming. Here's where Kimmel earns his keep as an editor more than a comedian. He knows the temptation is to dunk on Leavitt herself, to replay her snipes, and mix in the CNN cutoff for laughs. He doesn't take the bait, he aims higher. His target is the rot.
House Press Secretary apparently inadvertently admitted that Tom Homan was in a meeting with undercover FBI agents. She made that admission yesterday when she got carried away in saying something that no one else has said. She claimed Mr. Homan never took the $50,000.
Did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Homan have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong.
A workplace culture set by the guy at the top. When Kimmel asks about HR, he's not scolding a staffer, he's indicting the manager. That's why the joke works across politics. You don't have to hate the administration to understand that a president praising a subordinate's lips like he's narrating a calendar is not governance. It's a walking HR training video. It also fits a bigger Kimmel pattern that's been brutal on Trump in 2025. Play the tape, roll the receipts, ask one normal world question.
Trump announced the suit this morning. He wrote, "Today I have the great honor of bringing a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times, one of the worst and most degenerate newspapers in the history of our country. The Times has engaged in a decades-long method of lying about your favorite president, me, my family business, the America First movement, MAGA, and our nation as a whole. The New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too long, and that's..."
After his surprise suspension in September and quick reinstatement, Kimmel came back with a vengeance. Less thirsty for applause, more obsessed with receipts. He's been calmer than the firestorms around him, which makes the hits land harder. And because Trump and his orbit cannot resist the urge to clap back, Kimmel's one-liners keep turning into two-day stories, exactly the opposite of what any professional comm shop wants when the boss has just said something wildly inappropriate.
The president has been hard at work coming up with all sorts of nonsense to distract us from the Epstein files, including, I don't know if you saw this, but he made a major announcement. "I am ordering my administration to declassify and release all government records related to Amelia Earhart, her final tip and everything else about her. Thank you for your attention."
So first of all, who told her that Mr. Homans never took the $50,000? Who told her that? Was it Mr. Homans? He has not dared to say that himself, and no one else has dared to say that. But what you saw there in her frenzied attempt to claim that Tom Homan never took the $50,000, she actually just said, quote, "You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters," end quote. So there you have the president's press secretary admitting that Tom Homan was in a meeting with undercover FBI agents. That's the White House confirming at least that fact. That's the White House officially confirming that Tom Homan was in a meeting with undercover FBI agents.
Important guardrail while we're here, because rumor farms love this storyline. Kimmel did not kick Karoline off his show. She's never been a guest. There was no live on-set confrontation, no walk-off, no lawsuit duet. What happened was simpler and more powerful. A late-night monologue reframed the dynamic for millions of viewers by using the president's own words against his brand. In media terms, that's more devastating than an on-set scuffle. A scuffle is a clip, a frame is a habit, and once the frame lands, boss talks about the press secretary like a guy at a bar.
Trump says the Times is run by a bunch of lefties. He claims they're a mouthpiece for the Democrats. And I have to say, I did do today's Wordle, and I don't know if you did, but he might be right. Besides how ridiculous it is, this might be one of the funniest legal documents I've ever seen. It's quite a tongue bath. One page lists Trump's, quote, hundreds of history-making media appearances, including WrestleMania 5, All My Children, Ghost Can't Do It, 2 Weeks Notice, Days of Our Lives, Miss USA, Miss Universe, The Ali G Show, Marmalade, and much.
House leadership takes a swing and calls Leavitt's rhetoric sick or demented. The story circles back to the boss who rewards it. Karoline fires back and the culture war lights up. The story circles back to the boss who likes his press secretary most when she's a tabloid character. It's gravity. Every orbit returns to center. Here's your first nudge. If you've got a favorite Kimmel line from this week's run, HR, weirdest thing I'll ever see, or the follow-up about Air Force One being Mouth Force One, drop it in the comments so we can stitch the tightest cold open for the short.
It's important to try to put things in perspective. Last time my 8-year-old Billy were laying in bed, and he told me that in 5 billion years, we're all gonna die. The human race is gonna be gone because the Earth is gonna be consumed by the sun. And I was like, what? And I asked Alexa, I said, is that true? And she said, yeah, it is true. And you know what? Maybe we shouldn't worry so much, right, Guillermo? Yes, yeah. Maybe that's the moral to the story. Let's just be thankful that we are in the strong, capable, darkly bruised baby hands of the orangutan in the Oval Office.
And hit subscribe if you want the final cut to land the second we post it. Part of why this landed with such a thud in the room is that Kimmel's audience knows office life. They know uncomfortable laughter. They know why never replace her is not a compliment when it comes from the most powerful boss on earth about the youngest face on his senior staff. Turn the titles off and translate, my subordinate's looks are part of her value to me, and I'll keep her because of that. That's not mentorship. That's a billboard that says, report to HR.
Any we may have heard of, by the way? 7 wars. Last week it was 10 wars. Now it's 7. Tomorrow it'll be 15 wars. This guy is ending. He ended Star Wars. I don't know if you heard that. He did. Poor Mark Hamill had to move on to other things. Listen, I have an idea of how you can get people to stop talking about releasing the Epstein files. Release the Epstein files.
It also forces a more uncomfortable question for the White House. What exactly is Karoline Leavitt's job supposed to be? In the clean version, a press secretary stands at the podium, defends policy, explains facts, and absorbs heat so the president can pretend to be above the fight. In this version, she's a prop in the president's running commentary about himself. The joke writes itself because it's not a joke. You cannot fight for credibility in the briefing room at 2 p.m. if your boss turned you into a meme at 11 a.m. Kimmel's audience doesn't need a politics lecture. They need the pause button, and he gives it to them.
There's this video of what seemed to be garbage bags being thrown out of the window of the Lincoln bedroom. That's the White House. The official response from the White House said it was maintenance work being done while Trump was off on one of his many golf weekends. But Trump is even contradicting his own White House now.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residence upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No.
There's a secondary reason the HR line had reach. It sidestepped the stale, is late night partisan argument. That debate evaporates when the bit is Workplace Compliance 101. The punchline's target isn't conservative politics. It's the idea that normal rules don't apply inside the blessed circle of power. Kimmel's premise is that the rules should get stricter the closer you get to the nuclear codes, not looser. The crowd agreed because the real world agrees.
Our president is scheduled for his annual checkup tomorrow at Walter Reed Hospital. This will be his second yearly checkup this year. He had one 6 months ago, but it feels like it's been a year, so they decided to do it again. And it's smart to do this sort of thing before Halloween. If he gets a clean bill of health, he can continue his annual tradition of eating all Eric's trick-or-treat candy. Checkup will take place in the morning tomorrow, but the White House has already released the results. He is 7'2", 180 pounds, and his erections can deadlift a Cybertruck.
If your regional manager said that about the junior comms rep on a company plane, he'd be in a meeting with HR by Monday morning. He wouldn't be grinning to cameras about how irreplaceable she is. Mid-roll time. If you're new here and you want more clean narrations that cut through spin with receipts, subscribe and ring the bell. If you've been riding with America Facticity for a while, send this to one coworker who thinks it's just a joke and ask whether their HR would laugh.
There has to be something in there about it. I can't imagine him doing this because he cares about anyone else. This Epstein list, it's the first time Trump didn't want his name on something. There's a lot of speculation, naturally, including from the writer Michael Wolff, who wrote a bunch of books about Trump. Wolff floated the possibility that Trump may have had Epstein killed himself, which, listen, I know he's done a lot of things, bad things, but I don't think Donald Trump ordered a hit on Jeffrey Epstein. And the reason I don't think he ordered a hit.
As for Karoline, the career risk isn't Kimmel's laughter, it's that his framing becomes hers. Once the country hears the boss talk about her like that and hears comedy crystallize the discomfort, every future appearance carries a shadow. When she spars with reporters, she's not just a combative flack. She's the woman the president talked about like a beauty pageant MC. When she lands a clean point at the podium, the win is half-eaten by the image her boss put on her against her will.
No matter how bad you think your job is, it's important to remember there's someone out there who has to give Donald Trump a prostate exam. For some, literally. For others, just figuratively.
How about we go to Marco? You can talk a little bit about what's going on, and
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President. I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved.
Do you have any idea how difficult it is to give the president a prostate exam with Marco Rubio poking his nose up there all the time?
Kimmel didn't do that to her, he pointed at who did. One more beat on rumor control because it matters in this ecosystem. You'll see thumbnails and headlines claiming Kimmel destroyed Karoline in a live interview, that she stormed off his set, that she served him with papers. None of that happened. It's spackle for people who can't handle the boring truth. Carefully edited monologues beat fake drama because they age better.
There's a rumor making the rounds this weekend that Trump was dead because he hadn't been in front of a camera for a few days. That's how much he's in front of a camera. When we don't see him there, we assume he must be dead. And also he has mysterious bruising on his hand, which they tried to cover up with makeup. And this cover-up's even sloppier than the Epstein one. How could anyone let him go out like this? I mean, like he was spackled. He had to have done that himself, right? Looks great, sir. No one will notice a thing. The White House claims the reason for these bruises and his big fat elephant ankles is he suffers from a condition known as chronic venous insufficiency, which in layman's terms means he's got a very small venus. He's got an insufficient...
Unwavering willingness to sell nonsense as brilliance.
President, this is all another elaborate, made-up Democrat plot to distract us from the historically awesome job he is doing.
I think we're probably having, according to what I read, even from two people in this room, we're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
If you're on YouTube, subscribe to America Facticity for more clean edits and narrations you can drop into any group chat that still pretends this isn't weird.